For thousands of years, the sands of Egypt have hidden stories of gods, kings, and the mysteries of eternity. Before the pyramids became wonders of the world, ancient Egyptians looked toward the sky and imagined a universe filled with powerful beings. A sun god who carried light across the heavens, a king who conquered death, and a journey where every soul faced the truth of its own heart. Tonight, we enter that forgotten world and explore the complete story of Egyptian mythology, from the creation of the universe by Ra, through the legends of Osiris, Isis, and Horus, to the final journey into the afterlife. Before you settle in, don't forget to like the video and subscribe if you're enjoying the journey so far, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there. I always love seeing people tuning in from different corners of the world. Now, get cozy. Dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan or the AC for that soft background sound, and let's gently drift into tonight's story together. Before there were pyramids, before there were pharaohs, before a single name was carved into stone and asked to survive eternity, there was only darkness. Not evil darkness, not frightening darkness, just silence. A deep, endless, sleeping ocean called none. No land, no sky, no sun, no moon, no birds over the Nile, no breath inside the chest of a king, no temple incense rising toward golden ceilings, no gods, no humans, no time, only water. And inside that water, hidden like a thought waiting to become a sentence, was the first mystery of Egyptian mythology. How does something come from nothing? The ancient Egyptians answered that question the way poets answer impossible things. They did not give us one simple story. They gave us many. Because to them, creation was too great, too sacred, too strange to be explained by a single voice. In one version, a mound rises from the dark waters. In another, a lotus flower opens, and from it, the first light appears. In another, the world begins with a god speaking a name. And in another, the sun god brings himself into being by sheer will. But all these stories point toward the same image: a universe waking up. Imagine it. The dark waters stretch forever. Then slowly, gently, something breaks the surface. A mound, a small island of possibility. The first land, the first place where light might stand. And on that mound appears Ra, the sun god, the great golden one, the eye in the sky, the warmth on the skin, the force that tells the crops to grow, the birds to sing, the river to shine. Ra is not simply the sun. He is order. He is motion. He is the daily promise that darkness does not get the final word. Every morning, Ra rises in the east in his solar boat, crossing the heavens. Every evening, he sinks into the west and travels through the underworld, where serpents, demons, gates, and shadows try to stop him. And every dawn, he defeats them again. This is important, because Egyptian mythology is not just a collection of strange gods with animal heads. It is a story about rhythm, the rhythm of the sun, the rhythm of the Nile, the rhythm of life, death, and return. Nothing truly disappears. The sun sets, but returns. The Nile floods, then withdraws. The body dies, but the soul continues. A king is buried, but becomes eternal. That is the heartbeat of ancient Egypt. And tonight, we are going to follow that heartbeat from the first sunrise of Ra to the final judgment in the hall of Maat, where a human heart is weighed against a feather. So settle in. Let the world outside become quiet. Let the lamps of the modern age dim for a little while. We are going back to a land of deserts and riverbanks, golden masks and painted tombs, sacred crocodiles, watchful jackals, and gods who could be tender, jealous, wise, terrifying, and strangely human. We are going to tell the complete story of Egyptian mythology. And it begins, as all Egyptian things begin, with the sun. Ra stood at the center of Egyptian belief like a flame at the center of a temple. He had many forms. At sunrise, he could be Khepri, the scarab beetle, rolling the sun across the sky the way a beetle rolls a ball of earth. At noon, he was Ra in his full strength, blazing above the world. At sunset, he became Atum, the old sun, descending toward the west, tired but never defeated. This one idea tells us something beautiful about Egyptian thinking. A god was not always one fixed thing. A god could shift. A god could merge. A god could be young in the morning, powerful at midday, old in the evening, and reborn at dawn. For the Egyptians, divinity was movement. Ra created the first gods, and from them came the family that would shape the world. One of the earliest creation stories says that Ra, or Atum, brought forth Shu and Tefnut. Shu was the god of air. Tefnut was moisture, air and moisture, breath and dew, the first conditions for life. Shu and Tefnut had 2 children, Geb, the earth, and Nut, the sky. Now, in many cultures, the sky is male and the earth is female. But Egypt loved to reverse expectations. Geb, the earth, was male. Nut, the sky, was female. She arched over the world, her star-covered body stretching from horizon to horizon. In ancient Egyptian art, you can see her bent gracefully above the earth, her hands touching one side of the world, her feet touching the other, while Geb lies below her. Between them stands Shu, the air, holding them apart. This is not just a family drama. It is a picture of the universe. Earth below, sky above, air between them, moisture moving through creation, order taking shape. But mythology rarely stays peaceful for long. Geb and Nut loved each other deeply, too deeply perhaps for the comfort of Ra. According to one myth, Ra became angry when he learned that Nut was pregnant. He declared that she could not give birth on any day of the year. Now, that sounds final. But Egyptian mythology has a genius for loopholes. Enter Thoth. Thoth is one of the most fascinating gods in the Egyptian pantheon. He is the god of wisdom, writing, calculation, magic, measurement, and the moon. He is usually shown with the head of an ibis, a long-beaked bird, or sometimes as a baboon. He is calm, clever, precise. If Ra is the burning sun, Thoth is the cool intelligence of moonlight. Thoth gambled with the moon and won extra light, enough to create 5 additional days outside the official year. These were not ordinary days. They were outside the rules. And on those 5 days, Nut gave birth to 5 children who would become central to Egyptian mythology: Osiris, Isis, Set, Nephthys, and sometimes Horus the Elder. With these names, the story changes. The creation of the world becomes the drama of a family. And from that family comes one of the most powerful myths ever told, the story of Osiris, Isis, Set, and Horus. If Ra is the sun at the beginning of time, Osiris is the green life of the earth. Osiris became the first great king of Egypt. He was wise, generous, civilizing. He taught humans agriculture. He showed them how to plant grain, how to make bread, how to live by law instead of chaos. He was not a warrior king hungry for conquest. He was a king of fertility, order, and renewal. Beside him ruled Isis, his sister and wife. Now, to modern ears, the family relationships in Egyptian mythology can sound strange. But in mythic language, these unions were not meant to describe ordinary human life. They were symbolic. They represented cosmic forces joining together, sky and earth, life and magic, kingship and protection. Isis was one of Egypt's most beloved goddesses. She was a mother, magician, healer, mourner, protector, and queen. If Osiris gave Egypt civilization, Isis gave it devotion. Her love was fierce, intelligent, and unstoppable. But every ordered world has a force that resents order. That force was Set. Set was the brother of Osiris. He was god of storms, deserts, violence, foreign lands, confusion, and raw power. He was not always purely evil. In some stories, Set helps defend Ra against the serpent Apophis during the nightly journey through the underworld. But in the Osiris myth, Set becomes jealousy sharpened into murder. He looked at Osiris and saw not a brother, but a throne. So Set made a plan. He secretly measured the body of Osiris and had a beautiful chest made to fit him exactly. Then, he held a feast. Imagine the hall lit with oil lamps, the air warm, the cups full, the guests laughing, Set smiling with the patience of a knife. He brought out the chest and announced a game. Whoever fit inside it perfectly could keep it. One guest tried, too large, another tried, too small. Then Osiris, trusting, noble, unaware, lay down inside. The lid slammed shut. Set and his allies sealed the chest and threw it into the Nile. The river carried Osiris away. And with that, death entered the center of Egyptian myth. But the story does not end with death. In Egypt, it almost never does. Isis began to search. This is one of the most moving images in ancient mythology. A goddess wandering the earth, grieving, refusing to accept the disappearance of the one she loves. She searched through riverbanks, marshes, foreign lands, and lonely places until she found the chest containing Osiris. In some versions, the chest had drifted to Byblos, where a tree grew around it, and the tree was later cut down and used as a palace pillar. Isis recovered the body of Osiris and brought him back to Egypt. But Set found it again. This time, he did not simply hide Osiris. He tore the body into pieces and scattered them across Egypt. Now, Isis searched again, this time with her sister Nephthys. Piece by piece, they gathered Osiris. They became the first mourners, the first keepers of sacred grief. And with the help of Anubis, the jackal-headed god of embalming, they restored his body. This is where mythology and Egyptian funeral practice meet. The story of Osiris becomes the sacred pattern for mummification. The broken body is gathered, the body is preserved. The dead are prepared not for an ending, but for transformation. Isis used magic to revive Osiris long enough to conceive a child. That child was Horus. Osiris did not return to rule the living. Instead, he became king of the dead, lord of the afterlife, judge of souls, green-skinned, wrapped like a mummy, holding the crook and flail, symbols of royal authority. His murder was not erased, it was transformed. And this transformation is one of the deepest ideas in Egyptian mythology. Death is real. Grief is real. The body breaks, the heart suffers, the world becomes unfair. But through love, ritual, memory, and divine order, death can become a doorway. Osiris becomes the promise that what is buried may rise again. Meanwhile, Isis hid the child Horus from Set. Imagine the young mother in the marshes of the Nile Delta, sheltering her son among papyrus reeds. The wind moves softly through the plants. Crocodiles slide beneath the water. The child is vulnerable. The enemy is powerful. The throne is stolen. But Isis is not helpless. She is the greatest magician among the gods. She protects Horus from scorpions, snakes, sickness, hunger, and fear. In later Egyptian tradition, her image as a mother holding her child became one of the most comforting and enduring sacred images in the ancient world. Horus grew, and when he came of age, he challenged Set. This was not just a family dispute, it was a battle for the meaning of kingship. Horus represented rightful rule, inheritance, restoration, the living king. Set represented disruption, violence, the force that breaks the pattern. Their conflict was long and strange. In some stories, they fought in animal forms. In others, they competed before the divine council. Set tore out one of Horus's eyes. Horus wounded Set. The gods debated. Isis intervened. Ra hesitated. Thoth advised. The eye of Horus, restored by magic, became one of the most famous symbols in Egyptian culture. It represented healing, protection, wholeness, and restoration after injury. Think about that. A wounded eye becomes a symbol of protection. A broken god becomes king of the afterlife. A murdered father becomes the hope of eternal life. Egyptian mythology does not deny damage. It turns damage into sacred meaning. Eventually, Horus triumphs. Set is defeated or pushed back. Horus becomes king. And from that moment, every living pharaoh is associated with Horus. Every dead pharaoh is associated with Osiris. This gave Egyptian kingship a mythic structure. A king rules as Horus. A king dies as Osiris. A new king rises as Horus. So the throne is not merely political, it is cosmic. It is the reenactment of creation, death, and renewal. Every coronation whispers the same story. The world was broken, and now it is restored. But let us step back from the royal palace and return to the wider universe of Egyptian gods, because Egyptian mythology is not one narrow family tree. It is a crowded city of divine personalities. Some gods are ancient beyond memory. Some belong to specific cities. Some rise and fall in importance as political centers change. Some merge with one another, creating new forms. Ra can become Amun-Ra. Ta can create through thought and speech. Hathor can be love, music, motherhood, intoxication, and the dangerous eye of the sun. Sekhmet can be a lioness of plague and destruction, then become a goddess of healing. Bastet can be a fierce lioness in early times, and later a gentler cat goddess of home, joy, perfume, and protection. Anubis can guide the dead. Thoth can write the verdict of the soul. Maat can hold the entire universe together. To understand Egypt, you must understand Maat. Maat is often translated as truth, justice, balance, order, harmony, and rightness. But no single English word is enough. Maat is the way things should be. It is the sun rising in the east. It is the Nile flooding in season. It is a judge refusing a bribe. It is a farmer measuring grain honestly. It is a pharaoh protecting the weak and honoring the gods. It is the opposite of chaos. In Egyptian thought, chaos was always near. The desert pressed against the fertile valley. Famine could come, invasion could come, illness could come. The sun itself had to fight darkness every night. So Maat was not automatic. It had to be maintained. The pharaoh's job was not just to rule people. His sacred duty was to uphold Maat. Temples, rituals, offerings, laws, battles, building projects, and festivals all work together to keep the universe balanced. This is why Egyptian mythology can feel so serious and so practical at the same time. The gods are not distant abstractions. They are connected to daily survival. The Nile matters. Grain matters. Funeral rites matter. Words matter. Names matter. A correctly spoken prayer could help a soul pass safely through the underworld. A name carved in stone could keep a person alive in memory. A body preserved in linen could become a vessel for eternity. The Egyptians lived in a world where the visible and invisible touched constantly. When the sun warmed your face, Ra was present. When a scribe dipped his reed pen in ink, Thoth was present. When a cat guarded a home from snakes, Bastet was present. When a dead person was wrapped for burial, Anubis was present. When a mother protected a child, Isis was present. When a ruler sat on the throne, Horus was present. And when a person stood before judgment after death, Maat was there, as light as a feather and as heavy as truth. But before we enter the afterlife, we must travel with Ra through the night, because every evening the sun god dies a little. As Ra sets in the west, he enters the Duat, the Egyptian underworld. But the Duat is not simply hell. It is a mysterious realm of darkness, gates, caverns, rivers, gods, spirits, serpents, and tests. It is dangerous, yes, but it is also necessary. Ra sails through it in his solar bark. Hour by hour he passes through the night, and each night the great serpent Apophis tries to stop him. Apophis is chaos in serpent form. He wants to swallow the sun. He wants to halt creation. He wants dawn to fail. The gods defend Ra. Set, despite his dangerous nature, sometimes stands at the front of the solar boat and fights Apophis with a spear. This is one reason Egyptian mythology resists simple labels. A god can be violent and still useful. A force of disorder can sometimes defend order against a deeper chaos. Every dawn, Ra emerges victorious. The sun rises, the world continues. This daily victory shaped Egyptian imagination. The morning was not casual. It was cosmic success. You woke because Ra had won. But human beings, unlike the sun, did not automatically rise after death. They needed preparation. and no civilization prepared for death with more imagination, detail, or devotion than ancient Egypt. To the Egyptians, a person was not just one thing. You were made of several spiritual parts. There was the body, the physical form, which needed preservation. There was the Ka, often understood as life force or spiritual double. The Ka needed food and offerings. There was the Ba, often shown as a bird with a human head. The Ba could move between the tomb and the world beyond. There was the Ak, the transformed spirit, bright and effective in the afterlife. There was the name, which had to be remembered. There was the shadow, also part of a person's being. This layered view of the self explains why tombs were so important. A tomb was not just a grave, it was a house for eternity. Food offerings, painted scenes, statues, spells, amulets, furniture, jewelry, tools, and even model servants could help the dead continue in the next world. The Egyptians did not imagine eternal life as floating on a cloud. They imagined a perfected version of Egypt: fields, water, bread, beer, family, work without exhaustion, harvest without famine, sunlight without fear. But getting there was not easy. The dead had to pass through the Duat, guided by spells and protected by knowledge. This is where texts like the pyramid texts, coffin texts, and later the Book of the Dead become important. The Book of the Dead was not one single book in the modern sense. It was a collection of spells, prayers, and instructions designed to help the deceased navigate the afterlife. It told the soul what to say, what names to know, what dangers to avoid, and how to stand before judgment. The most famous moment is the weighing of the heart. Picture it: a great hall, the Hall of Maat. The air is silent except for the feeling that every action of a lifetime has entered the room. Anubis leads the deceased forward. He is calm, precise, jackal-headed, guardian of embalming and guide of souls. In the center stands a scale. On one side, the heart of the dead person. On the other side, the feather of Maat. Not a sword, not a mountain, not a burning star. A feather. Because truth does not need to be heavy to be powerful. The heart was believed to contain memory, conscience, desire, and moral character. It knew what you had done. It could not be fooled by titles, wealth, or tomb decorations. Nearby waits Ammit, the devourer. Part crocodile, part lion, part hippopotamus, 3 deadly animals combined into one terrible being. If the heart is heavier than the feather, Ammit consumes it. This is not simply punishment, it is annihilation. The soul loses the chance for eternal life. Thoth records the result. Osiris presides as judge. The deceased may recite the negative confession, declaring things they have not done. I have not stolen, I have not murdered, I have not lied, I have not caused pain, I have not polluted the water, I have not taken food from the hungry. These statements reveal what Egyptians valued: honesty, restraint, justice, kindness, social responsibility, reverence for sacred things. If the heart balances with the feather, the soul may enter the field of reeds. The field of reeds is one of the most peaceful images in Egyptian mythology. It is the afterlife as home, but better. The river is clear. The fields are fertile. The harvest is abundant. The dead reunite with loved ones. The sun shines gently. The soul lives close to the gods. No chaos, no hunger, no final separation. For a channel designed to help people fall asleep, there may be no more comforting ancient image than this: a quiet field beyond the western horizon where the soul lays down its fear and continues. But Egyptian mythology is not only comforting, it is also full of danger, because the Egyptians understood that peace is precious precisely because chaos is real. Consider Sekhmet. Sekhmet was the lioness goddess of war, plague, fire, and destruction. Her name means something like the powerful one. She could be the scorching heat of the desert sun, the rage of Ra, the terrifying force that punishes rebellion. One myth tells that humans plotted against Ra when he had grown old. Angered, Ra sent his eye in the form of Sekhmet to punish them. Sekhmet descended with terrible violence. Her rage became uncontrollable. She nearly destroyed humanity. The gods had to stop her. So they dyed beer red to look like blood and poured it across the land. Sekhmet drank it, became intoxicated, and her fury softened. In some versions, she transformed into the gentler Hathor. This myth is strange, vivid, and deeply Egyptian. Destruction can become joy. Rage can become music. The lioness can become the goddess of love. Hathor herself is one of the most radiant figures in Egyptian religion. She is associated with music, dance, beauty, motherhood, love, sexuality, joy, and the sky. She is often shown with cow horns holding the sun disk, or as a cow, nourishing and celestial. She welcomes the dead into the afterlife. She offers comfort. She is the Golden One, the Lady of the Sycamore, the goddess whose presence can turn grief toward celebration. Egyptian mythology often places opposites inside the same divine figure. A goddess may be mother and destroyer. A god may be murderer and defender. The underworld may be dangerous and life-giving. The desert may be hostile and sacred. The dead may be gone and still present. This complexity is one reason the myths still feel alive. They do not flatten existence. They hold contradictions the way the Nile holds both mud and reflection. Now let us visit Memphis, one of ancient Egypt's great religious centers, and meet Ptah. Ptah is a creator god, especially important in Memphis. Unlike stories where creation comes through physical birth or the rising sun, the Memphite theology imagines creation through mind and speech. Ptah conceives the world in his heart and brings it into being with his tongue. Thought first, word second, reality follows. This is one of the most profound ideas in Egyptian mythology. Speech has creative power. To name a thing is to affect it. To write a name is to preserve it. To erase a name is to attack existence itself. This explains why pharaohs carved their names into monuments, why enemies sometimes had their names removed, why spells mattered, why scribes held sacred status. Words were not decorations. Words were tools of eternity. Thoth, the god of writing, stands close to this mystery. He measures time, records judgment, gives wisdom, invents writing, and helps settle conflicts among the gods. He is intellectual but magical, calm but powerful. The Egyptians understood something modern people often forget. Knowledge can be sacred. A pen can be a wand. A written name can be a bridge over death. Then there is Amun. Amun began as a local god of Thebes, associated with hiddenness, air, and mysterious power. His name suggests the hidden one. As Thebes rose politically, Amun rose with it. Eventually, he merged with Ra to become Amun-Ra, king of the gods, combining hidden power with visible sunlight. This merging tells us something important about Egyptian religion. It was not rigid. Gods could combine without disappearing. Amun-Ra could be both hidden and blazing, the invisible force behind creation and the visible sun that sustains it. In a way, Amun-Ra answers a question every human has asked while watching the sky. Is the divine something we can see or something behind what we see? Egypt says both. The sun is visible, the power behind the sun is hidden, and together they rule. Egyptian mythology also includes gods deeply tied to animals, but this is often misunderstood. The Egyptians did not worship animals in a simple or childish way. They saw animals as living expressions of divine qualities. The falcon soars high and sees far, so Horus takes falcon form. The jackal roams near cemeteries, so Anubis becomes guardian of the dead. The ibis has a curved beak like a writing tool or crescent moon, so Thoth appears as ibis-headed. The crocodile is dangerous and powerful in the Nile, so Sobek becomes a crocodile god associated with strength, fertility, and royal power. The cat protects homes from snakes and pests, so Bastet becomes linked with household protection, grace, and warmth. The cow nourishes, so Hathor can appear as a cow goddess of motherhood and celestial care. Animals were not random costumes, they were symbols with teeth, wings, claws, and meaning. Sobek, the crocodile god, deserves a moment. To people living beside the Nile, the crocodile was both terror and power. It could destroy, It could also symbolize fertility, because the Nile itself brought life. Sobek was feared, honored, and invoked for protection. In some places, sacred crocodiles were kept, decorated, and mummified. Again, Egyptian mythology refuses to separate fear and reverence too neatly. The thing that can kill you may also reveal divine strength. The river that feeds you may hide teeth beneath the surface. This is not primitive confusion. It is sophisticated honesty. Life is like that. Now, let us return to kingship, because no complete story of Egyptian mythology can ignore the pharaoh. The pharaoh was not merely a political ruler. He was the human point where heaven and earth met. He maintained Maat, honored the gods, built temples, performed rituals, led armies, and secured Egypt's place in the cosmic order. In life, he was connected to Horus, in death to Osiris. This is why royal tombs became so elaborate. The burial of a king was not simply the loss of a ruler. It was a cosmic transition. The dead king joined the divine realm. The living king took his place as Horus. Order continued. The pyramids, especially those of the Old Kingdom, were not just monuments to ego. They were resurrection machines in stone. Their shape may have echoed the first mound of creation, the rays of the sun, or both. They pointed upward toward eternity. Inside the pyramids, the pyramid texts contain some of the oldest religious writings in the world. These spells helped the king ascend to the sky, join the gods, and live forever among the imperishable stars. Later, afterlife beliefs expanded beyond kings. Nobles, officials, and eventually more ordinary people hoped to share in Osiris's promise of resurrection. This is sometimes called the democratization of the afterlife. At first, eternity was royal. Then it became more widely available. The dream of survival after death moved outward, like light moving across the land. But eternal life required more than wealth. It required ritual, moral balance, and knowledge. That is why tomb walls show scenes of daily life: fishing, farming, baking, music, family, servants, animals. These images were not merely nostalgic. They helped recreate life in the next world. Art had function. Beauty had work to do. A painted loaf of bread could nourish the Ka. A carved servant could work forever. A written spell could open a gate. A name could breathe. This is one of the most moving things about ancient Egypt. Their art was a technology of hope. They painted because they feared forgetting. They built because stone could outlast flesh. They preserved bodies because love did not want the beloved to vanish. They told stories because stories can carry us where bodies cannot go. Now, what about humanity itself? Egyptian myths give different accounts of human creation. In one version, humans come from the tears of Ra. There's a play on words in Egyptian between tears and humans, and from divine weeping, people appear. This is beautiful. Human beings are born from the tears of the sun. It suggests that humanity is not an accident. We come from emotion, from overflow, from something divine that could not remain contained. But humans also rebel, fail, lie, steal, and disturb Maat. Egyptian mythology is not naive about us. We are sacred and troublesome, beloved and dangerous, worth saving and in need of judgment. That tension gives the myths their moral depth. The gods themselves are not perfect either. Ra can be proud, Set can be violent, Isis can be cunning, Horus can be wounded, Osiris can be passive after death, Sekhmet can lose control. The divine world mirrors the human world, but on a cosmic scale. And yet, above all of them stands the need for balance. Not perfection. Balance. This matters because modern people often think ancient religions were mainly about explaining nature. Thunder, sun, river, death. But Egyptian mythology does more than explain. It teaches how to live inside uncertainty. The Nile usually floods, but not always exactly as hoped. The sun rises, but only after battle. The king protects Maat unless he fails. The dead may live forever if their heart is true. Everything depends on relationship, ritual, memory, and order. Nothing is guaranteed, but everything can be cared for. This is why the gods required offerings. Not because they were hungry in a human way, but because offerings maintained connection. Food, drink, incense, flowers, hymns. These were acts of cosmic hospitality. A temple was the home of a god. Priests washed, clothed, and fed the divine image. The public did not always enter the deepest sanctuary. The god statue lived in sacred privacy, awakened each day through ritual. To us, this may seem strange, but think of it this way. Every day, the Egyptians renewed the world by caring for the divine presence within it. They did not assume the sacred would remain available without attention. They practiced attention. That may be one of the quiet lessons of Egyptian mythology. What you care for remains alive. A body, a name, a field, a family, a temple, a story, a soul. Now, let us move slowly toward the western horizon. In Egyptian geography, the west was associated with death because the sun set there. Many cemeteries and tombs were built on the west bank of the Nile. To go west was to follow the sun into the hidden world. But the west was not only sadness, it was transition. The dead were often called Westerners. They joined the realm beyond sunset where Osiris ruled. Funeral rituals were designed to help this journey. The opening of the mouth ceremony, for example, symbolically restored the senses of the deceased. The mummy or statue could breathe, speak, eat, and see in the afterlife. Again, the Egyptians understood death as a problem requiring care, not denial. Care. The body was washed, dried with natron, wrapped in linen, protected with amulets, placed in coffins, surrounded by spells. The heart was often left in the body because it would be needed at judgment. Other organs might be preserved in canopic jars under the protection of divine guardians. Anubis watched over this process. He is one of the most recognizable gods today, with his black jackal head and solemn presence. Black in this context was not simply the color of death, it was also the color of fertile Nile soil, of rebirth. Anubis stands at the border between decay and preservation, fear and guidance. He does not usually appear as cruel. He is careful. He leads. He weighs. He protects. There is something deeply calming about Anubis when understood properly. He is not death as terror. He is death with a guide. And then there is Osiris, waiting beyond judgment. Osiris's green skin represents vegetation, fertility, renewal. He is a dead god, yes, but also a living promise. He is wrapped like a mummy, but he rules. He was defeated, but not destroyed. Every Egyptian hoping for eternal life hoped to become an Osiris to share in his resurrection. This is why his myth was so powerful. The story of Osiris tells every human being, your body may be broken, your life may end, but there is a pattern older than you, a pattern of gathering, restoring, naming, judging, and renewing. For ancient Egyptians, this was not abstract theology. It was personal. It was about their mother, their father, their child, their friend, themselves. Now, let us think about Isis again, because without Isis, the Osiris story collapses. Osiris dies, Set destroys, Horus is too young, the divine council debates, but Isis acts, she searches, she mourns, she protects, she uses intelligence, she uses magic, she refuses surrender. In later centuries, Isis became one of the most widely worshipped goddesses in the Mediterranean world. Her worship spread beyond Egypt into Greece and Rome. Why? Because her story spoke to universal needs: a mother protecting her child, a wife mourning her beloved, a magician healing what is broken, a goddess who understands sorrow from the inside. Isis makes Egyptian mythology emotionally accessible. Through her, cosmic events become intimate. The throne matters, but so does a mother hiding in the reeds. The afterlife matters, but so does grief. The gods are vast, but they also weep. And in a sleep-friendly historical story that is worth remembering. Even the gods know loss. Even the gods must search in darkness. Even the gods need help. Now, Egyptian mythology changed over thousands of years. It was not one fixed book with one official version. Different cities emphasized different gods. Heliopolis honored Ra and the Ennead, the group of 9 major gods. Memphis emphasized Ta and creation through speech. Thebes elevated Amun, who became Amun-Ra. Hermopolis had its own creation tradition involving the Ogdoad, 8 primordial deities representing dark, watery, infinite conditions before creation. These differences did not necessarily cancel one another. Egyptian religion was comfortable with multiple truths existing side by side. A myth could be locally true, ritually true, symbolically true, politically important, and spiritually meaningful all at once. This is difficult for modern minds trained to ask, which version is correct? The Egyptian answer might be, the version that reveals the sacred pattern you need to see. Creation can be a mound. Creation can be a lotus. Creation can be a word. Creation can be the sun rising from dark water. Each image is a door. And behind every door is the same mystery. Existence is a miracle that must be renewed. Let us open the door of Hermopolis for a moment. There, before creation, the Ogdoad existed in pairs, male and female forces of the primordial world, darkness, hiddenness, infinity, watery chaos. They were often represented with frog and serpent forms, creatures of the swampy, pre-ordered world. From their interaction came the first moment of creation, sometimes imagined as an egg or a lotus from which the sun emerged. An egg floating on primeval waters, a flower opening in the dark, a child of light appearing before time. These images are gentle but enormous. They suggest that creation is not only a command, it is also a birth, a blooming, a quiet unfolding. That is why Egyptian mythology works so well for nighttime storytelling. It is filled with darkness, but darkness is not empty. It is pregnant with dawn. Now, let us consider one of the most dramatic divine symbols, the Eye of Ra. The Eye of Ra is not exactly the same as the Eye of Horus, though the two are sometimes confused. The Eye of Horus is often linked with healing and restoration after Horus's injury. The Eye of Ra is more aggressive, a fierce extension of Ra's power, often personified as goddesses like Sekhmet, Hathor, or Wadjet. The eye can protect. The eye can punish. The eye can wander away and return. In some myths, Ra sends his eye out, and when it returns, it is honored. The cobra on the royal crown, the uraeus, represents this fiery protective power. It is the goddess ready to strike enemies of the king and defend divine order. Power in Egypt is often watchful. The gods see, the sun sees, the dead are judged, the heart speaks, the feather waits. This sense of being seen was not only frightening, it was also reassuring. In a world of chaos, someone is watching over Maat, but what happens when the gods themselves age? One myth tells that Ra grew old and his drool fell to earth. Isis, always clever, shaped it with dust into a serpent. The serpent bit Ra, and the poison burned through him. Isis offered to heal him, but only if he revealed his secret name. In Egyptian belief, knowing a true name gives power. Ra resisted, but the pain forced him to surrender the hidden name. Isis gained tremendous magical power, and Ra was healed. This is not a simple story of disrespect. It is a myth about knowledge, power, age, and transition. The old sun god remains great, but Isis represents a different kind of power, strategic, verbal, magical, intimate. The strongest force is not always the brightest. Sometimes it is the one who knows the name. That idea runs quietly through Egyptian mythology. Names matter. Hidden things matter. What is unseen may rule what is seen. Amun is hidden. The name is hidden. The tomb is hidden. The underworld is hidden. The heart is hidden inside the body until judgment reveals it. Egypt loved surfaces, gold, color, carved stone, painted walls, but its deepest mysteries were concealed. The temple sanctuary, the tomb chamber, the secret name, the journey after death, the hidden sun at night. And yet, concealment was not absence. Hidden things were powerful precisely because they were hidden. Now, let us move from gods to monsters, because every mythology needs a force that cannot be negotiated with. Apophis, or Apep, is the great serpent of chaos. Unlike Set, who can have a role within the divine order, Apophis is pure opposition to creation. He does not want the throne. He does not want justice. He does not want worship. He wants the sun to stop. He wants the world undone. Every night, as Ra travels through the underworld, Apophis attacks. The gods bind him, cut him, burn him, spear him, chant against him. But he returns the next night. This repetition is important. Chaos is never defeated once and for all. It must be resisted again and again. Every dawn is victory, but not final victory. This may sound exhausting, but it is also realistic. Ancient Egyptians lived with cycles: daily, yearly, royal, agricultural, funerary. Their myths taught them that maintaining life requires repetition. You do not uphold Maat once, you uphold it daily. You do not tell the truth once, you practice truth. You do not honor the dead once, you remember them. You do not defeat darkness once, you rise again. For a modern listener, lying in bed, perhaps carrying the stress of a long day, this ancient rhythm can feel strangely comforting. The world has always needed renewal. People have always feared chaos, and still, dawn has come many times. Now, let us look at Bastet, because not all Egyptian divine power roars like Sekhmet or blazes like Ra. Sometimes it pads softly through the house. Bastet, often shown as a cat-headed goddess, became associated with home, protection, fertility, perfume, music, and joy. Cats were valued in Egypt for protecting grain stores from mice and homes from snakes. Over time, they became symbols of grace and domestic safety. Bastet reminds us that mythology is not only about kings and cosmic battles, it is also about ordinary peace, a safe room, a sleeping child, a home free from hidden snakes, a little music, a little warmth, a lamp burning softly. In that sense, Bastet belongs perfectly in a sleep story. She is the sacredness of feeling protected at night. Then there is Nephthys, often quieter than Isis, but deeply important. Sister of Isis, wife of Set in some traditions, mother or companion of Anubis in some stories, Nephthys is associated with mourning, protection, night, temples, and the edges of life and death. She helps Isis gather Osiris. She stands with the dead. She is present in lamentation. Not every sacred role is loud. Some divine work is simply staying beside grief. That, too, is Egyptian mythology. The one who mourns is holy. The one who protects the body is holy. The one who writes the spell is holy. The one who rows the solar boat is holy. The one who plants grain is part of the cosmic order. This brings us to the Nile itself. The Nile was not just a river. It was Egypt's lifeline. Without it, the land would be desert. With it, Egypt became one of the most enduring civilizations in human history. The annual flood deposited rich black silt along the riverbanks, allowing crops to grow. This cycle of flood, planting, harvest, and dry season shaped Egyptian religion at every level. The god Hapi personified the Nile flood. He was often shown with a full body, symbolizing abundance, carrying offerings of plants. He was not the river itself in a simple sense, but the life-giving flood that made civilization possible. Osiris, too, is connected with vegetation and renewal. His death and restoration echo the planting and sprouting of grain. The Egyptians saw theology in agriculture. A seed buried in dark soil rises green. A body buried in the west may rise transformed. The Nile recedes and returns. The sun disappears and returns. The pattern repeats. When you understand this, the obsession with the afterlife becomes less strange. The Egyptians were surrounded by resurrection metaphors. Every field was a sermon. Every sunrise was a prophecy. Every flood was a promise. Now, no complete mythology can ignore conflict between human ambition and divine order. Pharaohs built temples not only from devotion, but also from politics. Different gods rose in importance when their cities rose. Priests gained power. Royal ideology shaped myth. But this does not make the myths fake. It makes them human. Mythology is where politics, nature, psychology, ritual, and imagination meet. When Thebes became powerful, Amun became powerful. When kings wanted to present themselves as sons of Ra, solar theology became royal language. When death concerned everyone, Osiris became beloved far beyond royal circles. Egyptian mythology lived because it adapted. It could absorb local gods. It could merge divine identities. It could place old symbols into new temples. It could tell many creation stories and still see one universe. That flexibility helped it last for thousands of years. Now imagine an Egyptian temple at dawn. The outer walls glow in early light. Columns rise like stone forests. Reliefs show Pharaoh offering to the gods. Incense drifts in the air. Priests move quietly. Somewhere within the sanctuary, behind doors and curtains, the god's image waits. The ritual begins. The god is awakened, washed, dressed, perfumed, fed. Outside, farmers go to their fields. Scribes prepare records. Bakers knead dough. Children wake. Boats move along the Nile. Above them all, Ra climbs. Myth and daily life are not separate. The sunrise outside and the ritual inside are part of the same act of renewal. That is the Egyptian world at its most beautiful. Everything connected. Now, let us return one final time to the afterlife, because that is where all these ideas gather. The dead person enters the Duat. They must know names of gates and guardians. They must avoid dangers. They may travel with Ra. They may identify with Osiris. They may use spells to breathe, eat, move, and transform. They may face judgment. At the scale, everything becomes simple, not simple as in easy, simple as in clear. The tomb does not answer. Gold does not answer. Status does not answer. The heart answers. What did you do with your life? Did you uphold Maat? Were you honest? Were you cruel? Did you take what was not yours? Did you harm the vulnerable? Did you disturb the balance? The feather waits. There is something extraordinary about choosing a feather as the measure of a life. A feather is delicate, almost weightless, easily moved by breath, and yet, in Egyptian imagination, it can outweigh the excuses of a lifetime. The heart must be light, not empty. Light, free from the heaviness of wrongdoing, free from the burden of chaos, free from the weight of a life lived against truth. If the heart balances, the soul moves on, past fear, past judgment, past the jaws of Ammit, toward the field of reeds, and there perhaps the story becomes quiet. The kind of quiet your channel is made for. The river moves slowly, the fields bend in a soft wind, loved ones are near, bread is warm, the sun is gentle, no one is forgotten, no one is hungry. The soul has arrived. But the Egyptian story does not end even there, because mythology is not only about what happens after death, it is about how to live before death. Live so the heart is light. Remember the names of those you love. Care for the body. Speak truth. Honor rhythm. Know that darkness comes, but dawn also comes. Know that chaos returns, but order can be renewed. Know that grief can search the world and still find what was lost. Know that a broken eye can be healed. Know that a murdered god can become king of eternity. Know that the sun, every single night, travels through danger. And every single morning, it rises. That may be the greatest gift of Egyptian mythology. Not the pyramids, not the gold, not the animal-headed gods, not even the mystery of mummies and tombs. The greatest gift is the pattern, creation from darkness, life from water, order from chaos, healing from injury, hope from grief, dawn from night. From Ra to the afterlife, Egyptian mythology tells us that existence is fragile, but not meaningless. Death is powerful, but not always final. The world is threatened, but also protected. The heart is judged, but it can be light. And now, as our journey comes to an end, imagine one last scene. The sun is setting over the Nile. The western sky turns gold, then rose, then violet. A boat moves quietly across the water. Palm trees stand like silhouettes. Somewhere, in a temple, incense rises. Somewhere in a tomb, a painted field waits. Somewhere beyond the horizon, Ra begins his night journey. Anubis lights the path. Thoth opens his book. Osiris sits in stillness. Isis watches over the child. Horus guards the throne. Maat places her feather on the scale. And the ancient world breathes, not loudly, not urgently, just enough. Enough to remind us that stories can outlast stone. Enough to remind us that every night has a river running through it. Enough to remind us that even in darkness, the sun is still traveling. And when morning comes, as it always has, Ra will rise again. So rest now. Let the old gods fade into the soft distance. Let the Nile move through the dark like a ribbon of silver. Let the stars gather inside the body of Nut, the sky goddess, arching above the sleeping world. Let the heart grow quiet. Let the feather be light, and let the story carry you gently toward dreams. Because long before us, the Egyptians looked at the same night and believed that darkness was not the end. It was only the road to dawn. If this epic story brought you a sense of wonder and helped you relax tonight, please consider supporting the channel. Take a moment to like this video, leave a comment below with your favorite part of the story, share it with someone who loves history, and subscribe to the channel. Your support helps us create more deep, immersive storytelling designed to help you unwind and explore the past. Sleep well, and until next time, may your dreams be filled with history.